Hey smart buddies, let's get back to school and know more with the smart slate. Today we'll know more about, as you can see in the picture, types of verbs. So transitive verbs and its types, intransitive verbs, reflexive verbs, and verbs of incomplete predication. So depending upon the different actions or different emojis, you can guess today's video is based on verbs. And we'll understand the types of verbs. So these are the 4 types which we'll know more about. So classification of verbs: transitive, intransitive, reflexive, and verbs of incomplete predication. Looking at the meaning of a sentence first, like subject, verb, and object. When you try to make a sentence, you need to have subject, verb, and object. When you add subject to the verb and an object to it, you get the product as a sentence. To form a sentence, there must be a subject, a verb, and an object. So the example here is Gabriel played piano. Gabriel is subject, played is verb, and piano is an object. So when you add these 3 things together, the result is your sentence. So in each and every sentence, there is a verb, there is a subject, and there is an object. But in few cases, there is an absence of object. Like if I say, Gabriel plays. In this case, there is no object, and the meaning of the sentence also changes. So we'll understand that step by step, how can we use a sentence with object and without object. So subject and object are the 2 important parts today, on the basis of which we'll understand the types of verbs. So the very first type is transitive verbs. A verb that takes an object after it is called a transitive verb, and the action denoted by the verb moves up to an object. So whenever you have an object in a sentence, then the verb used here is transitive verb. Like Tom killed Jerry. So Tom is subject, killed is verb, and Jerry is the object. Akon sang a song. Akon is subject, sang is the verb, song is the object. Pam cooked the food. Pam is the subject, cooked is the verb, and food is the object. So there must be an object after a verb, not before a verb. After a verb, then it is a transitive verb. So the transitive verbs are categorized into monotransitive, ditransitive, and ambitransitive or ergative verbs. So these are the types of transitive verbs. To find out which type of verb it is, you have to ask the question whom or what to the verb. And when the answer is an object, then it is a transitive verb. Like Tom loved Jerry, Con wrote a book, and Pam ate chocolates. So in all these, we have the objects like Jerry, book, and chocolates. These are the transitive verbs. But whenever the objects are single, then it is a monotransitive verb. That means there is a direct object and there is a single object. There is no hidden object or second object or an indirect object in a sentence. Then that is monotransitive verb. A verb which can have 2 objects in it. Like if we have one object, then it was monotransitive. But in case we have 2 objects, then it is ditransitive. So in case of ditransitive, we have direct and indirect objects. Most transitive verbs take a single object. But in case of 2 types of objects, we have direct. So the example here is they paid the charges. They subject, paid is the verb, charges is the object. And here we can understand it that it is a direct object because we can easily identify it. There is no hidden object here that we need to think that okay, this can be an object. So they paid the charges. Second sentence is Hannah bought a ring. Maria sent the contact number. So charges, ring, and contact number are the objects respectively, and the transitive verbs here are paid, bought, and sent. And the subjects here are they, Hannah and Maria respectively. But in case of indirect objects, we'll understand using the similar sentences or the same sentences. They paid him the charges. Henry bought her a ring, and Maria sent me the contact number. So in this case, him, her, and me, they are hidden. So even when I say they paid the charges, but there is a chance that the object is hidden, or it is an indirect object. So whenever the object is an indirect object, and as well as you have direct object like the charges, then the verb becomes ditransitive. So in this sentence, they paid the charges. Paid is ditransitive because him is the indirect object which we need to understand, that they paid someone the charges. So that someone is indirect object. Hannah bought a ring. So bought for someone. So bought here acts as a ditransitive because there is a direct object and there is an indirect object. Similar is the case with sent the contact number. So sent is your direct. Sent is the ditransitive verb for direct object, that is contact number, and indirect object is me. So I hope you understood ditransitive verb. It is quite similar, quite easy. Next type we'll know about is an ergative or ambitransitive verb. So the verbs which can be used in both sense, like the similar word can be used in two different ways, that is transitively and intransitively. That means with an object and without an object. Then that verb is an ergative or ambitransitive verb. So Robin flies a cat and kite flies. Flies is the same verb used in the same form, that is no change in spelling or tense. In the similar way we have used it, but in two different sentences and in two different ways. So Robin flies a kite. Here we have an object, that is a kite. But in the second case of intransitive verb, we do not have an object. So flies become an ergative verb or ambitransitive verb because it is used transitively as well as intransitively. Similar is with farmer grows wheat and wheat grows well. So grows here is ergative or ambitransitive verb. Next type here is reflexive verb. As we can understand with the word reflexive, that the subject and object refers to the same person, or verb is used reflexively in a sentence. Like subject and object are referring to the same person. I covered myself. Subject is also I and the object is also myself. I and myself. So the verb used here is covered. It becomes the reflexive verb. They acted themselves. He dressed himself. So the subject and object are the same here. So it becomes reflexive verb. Next type is cognate object or cognate accusative. Here the object is similar in meaning to the verb. So in a particular sentence, when the meaning of verb and an object is of similar nature or they are similar, like with a single word you have formed a noun and a verb, then that particular word is known as cognate object. I covered it with a plastic cover. Now cover acts as a noun or as an object, and covered acts as a verb. So the same word is used in two different ways, then covered becomes your cognate object or accusative. They fought a good fight. Fought and fight. He laughed a sinister laugh. Laughed and laugh. So these are the cognate objects or accusative. Looking at the next type, that is intransitive verbs. Intransitive verbs here are the verbs which are not linked with an object, or they do not have an object in a sentence. A verb that does not take an object after it, that is after the verb you will not find any object, then that particular verb is an intransitive verb. Like Thomas laughs, kite flies, or Sam dances, or wheat grows well. So there is an absence of an object after a verb. Such are the intransitive verbs. Laughs, flies and dances. Next type we have is verbs of incomplete predication. Verbs of incomplete predication means the verb which requires the help of some other word to complete its meaning is known as a verb of incomplete predication. Now that some other word is known as complement. When I say you look gorgeous, if I say you look, then there is an absence of a word which provides the complete meaning to a sentence. But if I add something like you look sad, you look gorgeous, you look timid, you look tall, you look small, any such words which add complement to the noun or pronoun and which completes the meaning of a sentence, then the verbs become verb of incomplete predication. The word which is required to complete the meaning of the verb is known as complement of the verb. Complement usually consists of a predicative noun or a predicative adjective like gorgeous, or he's a lawyer, or she's a teacher. So teacher and lawyer acts as noun, but if I say you look gorgeous, then gorgeous is an adjective. Or you look small, tiny, timid, or it was a hot day, then hot. So when you try to show the quality or express quality, it becomes adjective. It can be subjective complement or an objective complement depending upon it is based on subject or object. Like she looks beautiful. So looks is the verb of incomplete predication, because if I just say she looks, then the sentence is incomplete or it does not have the complete meaning. The complement of the verb may be a noun, pronoun, adjective, gerund, infinitive, or present participle. They are engineers. So in this particular sentence, engineers is a noun. If I just say they are, then the sentence is still incomplete and you need a complement or another word to complete it. So are is here verbs of incomplete predication and engineers here is noun. I worked on myself. Myself is pronoun. You look gorgeous. It started raining. It started to rain and the stars are shining. So raining acts as a gerund. To rain is an infinitive and shining acts as a present participle. So are, worked, look, started, and are again. So these are the verbs of incomplete predication in a sentence. When a complement describes a subject of an intransitive verb, it is called a subjective complement. Now, in case of an intransitive complement, you usually have subject and not an object, because intransitive verbs do not take an object after it. So, they do not have an object, but they are focused on subjects. So, whenever you see subjective complement in a sentence, you'll find usually the verb used is intransitive verb. So in this table we'll understand like you look gorgeous or you look tired. So tired here is the complement or gorgeous is the complement. Verb is look and subject is you. So the complement is given to the subject. And the verb used here is intransitive verb, that is look. He is a lawyer. Again, who is a lawyer? Complement is given to the subject and not an object. Now, what is object which comes after verb, and what is subject which comes before verb? So here the complements are given to the words before verbs, like you and he respectively. So it becomes subjective complement. Now, when an object describes an object, complement describes an object of a transitive verb, it is called an objective complement. So, transitive verbs usually or transitive verbs are made for objects, you can say. So, whenever you have an object in your sentence, then the verb used is transitive verb, because in transitive verbs we have an object. So, in the particular table we'll understand objective complement, like they made him fool. So who was made fool? They made him fool. Object comes after verb and complement is given to whom? To the object and not to the subject. Him here is the object and complement given is fool. I bought her a watch. For whom the watch is bought, or you can say who's the person for whom something is done, then here the answer is her. So him and her are the indirect objects, you can say, or in this particular sentence we come to know that we can see that these are the objects and the complement is given to him and her. So these are the objective complement. It's time for you all to practice. Go through the video once again and try to answer transitive verbs, intransitive verbs, and verbs of incomplete predication. Answer all these 9 sentences in the comment section if you understood the video. Thank you. Keep learning, keep growing, and stay subscribed for more such videos.